Welcome to the Latter-day Lens, your home for faith-promoting, unscripted discussion of current events. If you'd like to reach out to us, send us a text message at the link in the show notes, or you can email us, latterdaylens@gmail.com. If you want to know more about us or listen to all of our episodes all the way back to the beginning, you can visit our website, latterdaylens.com. We'd love to hear from you. Hi everybody, welcome to the Latter-day Lens. I'm your host Matt. With me as always is Shawn, and we are so happy to have Porter with us today. Porter, welcome back.
Thank you.
It's so good to have you. You were just telling me you're a college graduate and working, so that puts you in a very small minority of people in this world. And you're working in something that you got your degree in, kind of, right? Like, way to go.
Yeah, I got my degree in political science, American government. I'm working as a legal assistant / paralegal for a immigration law firm that does mostly like litigation. So I spend a lot of time doing what I did in college, like writing memos and doing research and working in R, making charts. Thank you, Brother Miles.
You're welcome. You're welcome. See, for all of our listeners out there who wonder if a college degree is worth it, Porter says, yes, absolutely, it's worth it. You learn stuff. You can do it for a job. You can find joy and happiness in that path.
Except for the fact that, Porter, you've decided next you're going to actually go back to school.
I'm going to go to law school, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, there are many people that say they're going to go to law school and never do it. So it's okay. It's all right if Porter chooses a better path. For instance, Teddy Roosevelt said he was going to go to law school and then became president of the United States instead.
So, Porter.
Yeah, back then law school was a little more optional if you wanted to do law.
Yeah, it's a different world now. Well, welcome, Porter. We're glad to have you. Okay, so we have a couple of things in the mailbag. The first is, one listener writes, the way to find your favorite tax is to remember that whatever you tax, you get less of. If you tax paid imports, you get less imports. If you tax paid work, you get less paid work. If you tax inheritance, you get fewer entitled trust fund babies. The one exception is land because nobody is making more land. What is Shawn's favorite way to fund the government?
In other words, what's my favorite tax?
I think so. I think that's what the listener wants to know. Shawn, what is your favorite tax?
Do only socialists have favorite taxes? Is that, I mean, no one has a favorite tax except for socialists. I mean, there's a billion different ways to structure taxes to provide for society. Like, I mean, very few people are going to go, yeah, I don't think we should have any taxes. Of course you need taxes. But no one has a favorite tax. I mean, I could make an argument. We could go in deep in a rabbit hole and make an argument that a personal income tax structured in a certain fair way is the best way. And then you eliminate all other, because here, for example, you could argue, Matt, that you are holding, you and your beloved workers that you proclaim to love, you're holding them back if you are limiting them to just one source of income. If you don't enable them to make wealth through property, through real estate, through equipment, if you tax it so much that it limits their ability to grow wealth that way, then it's a regressive tax because you're basically attacking the poor. So if you don't, like, I'll never have, for example, the skills, talents, and work demand abilities like as Levi does, for example. He's a super smart dude. So if we just are limiting it to like income tax and don't tax people and their incomes, then I'll never, ever be able to rise the way that Levi is. I will always be stuck. But allow me to invest in real estate in San Diego, and I'm getting there.
My favorite tax is tithing. Tithing is the way to do it, right?
Tithing's not a tax.
Well, everything we have comes from the Lord. 10% of our increase we give back to Him. So,
yeah, but
however one defines increase, you give 10% of that back to the Lord.
Yeah, but you're I'm not going to let you do that. You can't conflate tax with tithing.
Oh, well, I'll just do it to the government instead of to the church or to the Lord. I give an additional 10% to my government.
Yeah, but then you have to go in front of a judge once a year, and they'll ask you, are you a full taxpayer? And you say yes or no. And if they discern that you're lying, then they take away your citizenship.
Yeah, I don't know. When Levi said he had a favorite tax, I thought that was the most hilarious thing ever. I don't even know what it is to have a favorite tax. But I'm okay with the way God does it with tithing. But yeah. Anyhow, thanks, listener, whoever you might be, for bringing us into the favorite tax topic. Another person wrote in and said, speaking of plural marriage, more than a shadow, it has kept tons of people from joining, and many have left because of polygamy. I believe Emma. The Lord calls it an abomination. It is not doctrine. President Hinckley was brave and said it is not doctrinal. So there you go. Okay, I don't know what to make of that.
Is the listener saying that like polygamy was wrong? That like
yes, they're saying it was
like
never.
What is it? Section 132.
Yeah,
Doctrine and Covenant. That's just shouldn't be canon.
I don't know. Yeah. By the way, when President Hinckley said it's not doctrinal, it was on a TV show. Larry King Live asked him if our church practices polygamy, and he said no, it's not doctrinal.
Right, today.
Yeah.
But so, I mean, it's a tough discussion. No one likes polygamy, but the same way, if she's saying, look, there's no doctrine and it's an abomination, the DNC or whatever, you'd have to say the same about the Bible. The Bible is full of polygamy, and God sanctioned polygamy. God managed polygamy, right? For example, he commanded Nathan the prophet to go give to David the wives of Saul. That literally says, the Lord, command you to have these wives.
And he took David's wife away from him at one point. Or maybe God didn't do that. What happened with Michael? His wife Michael was given to somebody else. Was that
Michael?
God? David had a wife named Michael who was Saul's daughter. And at one point, his wife was given to another man. And then he came and got her back again. And she was like, I don't want to be with you.
Yeah, there are some marriage situations in the Old Testament that are infinitely more offensive to me than just the idea of plural marriage.
Yeah.
There is DNC 132.3. There's kind of a stipulation. For all those who have this law revealed unto them, must obey the same.
Mm.
If God reveals the law of plural marriage to you, you must obey it. If not, you do not. Okay. And all the church resources, I don't know, seem to indicate. I don't know where this person is headed
with the comment,
like that it's somehow church doctrine because President Hinckley said that on a TV show that this is like a false revelation. But if you read anything the church has published right now about plural marriage, it'll say, yes, it was commanded, it was revelation, and we don't do it anymore.
So, but by the way, verse 3 in DNC 132 applies to every single commandment across the board. Right? All he's saying here is this. If you're accountable because you know a law and I require it of you, then you have to keep it. I don't think he's saying, if you know about polygamy, then you have to practice polygamy. That's not what he's saying.
Well, knowing about it isn't the same as having it revealed unto you. Like we know about the law of Moses. It hasn't been revealed to us to follow it.
Right. Or the law of consecration, right?
And there's a lot of clarity around polygamy where the Lord has given us real clear. Look, the law is this. Marriage is one man and one woman. That's the law. And in very few and certain circumstances where I, the Lord, command it to raise up a generation unto me of covenant children, then I will command it. That's the law. So if the Lord reveals that law, of course, the same way that if he reveals the law of consecration or the law of tithing, then we have to live it. We're obligated.
And I think polygamy, plural marriage in the history of the church occupies this weird political space of like the concept of being married, of like being in a polyamorous relationship now is not offensive to a lot of people. But in this context, for some reason, it is. And I'm wondering if those crowds of people overlap or if this is a different group of people that is maybe more influenced by like a more of Americans like Puritan culture of being offended by that to the point of wanting to leave the church.
I think people are just offended at the idea that they might be required to be in a plural marriage for all of eternity.
But that's not doctrinal. That's not doctrinal. There's no doctrine that teaches that.
No, I know, but there's still people that believe that in the church.
But that's a wrong belief. That's cultural belief. And so do your studying and you'll find that isn't taught.
That's
Yeah.
right. If you're bothered by that, read the scriptures more.
Read the church has such a great little thing on plural marriage. They'll answer any question you have.
All right. Well, speaking of not wanting to let topics die, we're gonna we're gonna move into the thought provoker. So Jana Reese is I would call her a journalist, but from time to time she teams up with Benjamin Knoll, who's a political scientist, and they do interviews, public opinion surveys, and they ask questions of people who are members of the church or who are leaving the church. Anyhow, they have a book coming out in Oxford by Oxford University Press. It'll be released sometime next year, and it's all about why people leave the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And so she wrote a little op-ed this week talking about why young women are leaving the church. And according to her data, she says it comes down to 3 Ps: politics, purity culture, and powerlessness. So here's the question. Has Jana Reese identified anything that we missed in previous discussions about why young women are leaving the church?
First, can I just plant the seed of skepticism about the accuracy of Jana Reese's?
Yeah. You don't, Shawn, if you're going to be skeptical about Gallup and Pew, go ahead. Be skeptical about Jana Reese as well.
I read your dang study, Matt. Whenever you provide these things, it forces me to go read everything. I read it. Yeah. I did a whole background study on Jana.
Good.
You can't say that there's not
bias?
Interpretive bias. Let's call it interpretive bias, right? Now, for sure, I'm not saying she's doing anything wrong, but there's definitely interpretive bias in this.
Okay. She interviewed, Shawn. She interviewed 100 people.
That's right. That's correct.
100 people.
100 people who, by the way, were not, what's the term, Matt? Randomized?
Right. She did not randomly select these 100 people. She
did not. She handpicked.
Yeah. This is not data.
It's not data. She handpicked ex-Mormons, right? People who have left the church and focused on the demographic that is her demographic, which is a woman who has left the church. So skepticism, Matt? Yes.
Okay.
So I don't think her findings are actually probably
the other thing is going to be she says it's not just people who have left, but also what she calls liminal Mormons who are just not she says not as stalwart. They're not as devout as your typical active member of the church. But the issue is if she's picking people that she knows, this is also going to be regionally biased.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really line up with the data we were looking at before, which, by the way, really, I don't think the data said that much. It was showing that young women in the church there was a 60% chance.
40% of young women aged 18 to 20 were still members of the church, and 60% of young men that age were.
Yeah, but then it evened out as they got older. It doesn't seem like that huge of a gap to me, and I think it is interesting to look at why the gap is there at all, and I think her reasons probably do have something to do with it. All of them.
Yeah,
but I think we talked about all those on the podcast.
I think we did. Yeah.
But here's my point I want to make, Matt, is whenever you try to answer the question of faith or activity and you approach it from a sociology paradigm, you're not going to get to the heart of it. What it boils down to is when someone leaves a religion, they just they choose to not believe in it anymore, and they instead choose to believe in other things. It does boil down to faith, right? And the scriptures are clear on that. You don't think so?
I think there's multiple things. I think that's one of the reasons people leave. I guess what I would say is this. 2014, so this would be 12 years ago, I did a survey. I did it the right way, where you randomly select people. They're not people I knew. I got 450 people to participate in my study, and it was a long survey, and I tried to find every single thing you could do to empirically demonstrate why people leave the church. And what I found was there's not an answer to why people leave the church, and there's not 3 answers. Every single person is different. And so I think there's 2 things going on. One, everybody has their own path of faith, and so the reason they stay, the reason they leave is very individualized. But then the second thing is people don't really know themselves why they stay or why they leave. And if if, for example, I'm the kind of person that like my whole life I really wanted to be like go to bars and drink alcohol. And so then I start doing that. And then I leave the church and somebody says, well, you just left the church because you wanted to drink alcohol. I'm going to reject that psychologically. I'm going to say something like, well, I've moved beyond, or I've grown, or I've become a better person, or I've learned to see things differently. So it's just such an individualized thing. I don't believe that it's actually possible empirically, or as Shawn would say, sociologically, to identify patterns that are consistent across individuals and times and places.
I love that, Matt. Preach it.
Yeah.
Can I give points? Can I give Matt points?
Yes. Matt gets all the points. That was beautiful.
I still applaud that people try to do it. I have no problem with people trying to do it. But don't you guys find in scriptures, like you read something about something that happened 1,000 years ago in some totally different situation, and it speaks to you, and you're like, this is describing like my life and my situation and what I'm going through. And I just feel like there's something about the human experience that like is universal across time and place, but also is so individual that like my experience really can't be aggregated or averaged across time and place to say everybody's like this or most people are like this.
I'll go with that. Sure.
Yeah.
But there are some common principles, right? Like, for example, Helaman 5:12 does talk about how, look, there's a way to build a firm foundation upon which you cannot fall, right? In Ephesians, it talks about how we become children tossed to and fro, carried around with every wind of doctrine by the sleight of man and cunning craftiness, whereby the line way to deceive. And then it talks about, but if you're on that firm foundation, which is built on Jesus Christ, you won't be pushed. And I think we get so distracted in our modern world with so many things and discussions and topics, whereas coming to Christ through faith and repentance and baptism and get the Holy Ghost, like that core foundation sets us on a firm rock. And like that's the Latter-day lens, right? Come unto Christ, feast upon his words, pray often, renew your covenants in faith, and nothing else matters.
I do think it's fascinating that there is one plan of salvation for everybody. And that plan of salvation works for everybody. At the same time, nobody has the exact same experience in their path to salvation.
Nice.
Right? Like when I try and tell my kids, here's what the Holy Ghost feels like, they don't have common experiences with me. Maybe some a little bit here and there, but it really is very difficult to say, this is what works for me, this is going to work for you, in like a really specific kind of way, right?
Yeah.
In the general, come unto Christ, pray, repent, like in the general way, it works, but the specifics are always different for everybody, the way that all of the mix of everything goes together.
I have to think about that a little bit.
Okay.
I'll think about it.
Yeah. All right, here's the next topic. The Trump administration is deporting many Southeast Asian refugees who came to the United States as children, but later committed crimes. Some, like Mong Tran, lived in the United States for decades, built families and careers, and then were sent to countries they barely remember. Meanwhile, Senator John Curtis introduced a bill that would let states create their own temporary worker visa programs based on local job needs. He says the bill is needed because businesses have worker shortages and states should be able to choose immigration policies that fit their economies. Workers could stay for 3 years and their visas could be renewed. Some immigrants who have lived in the United States illegally for the last 10 years could also receive legal status if they pass a background check and pay $1,000. Each of these approaches angers different people. So here's the question. What's the best approach to immigration moving forward? And lucky for us, Porter knows something about immigration law.
I know a little bit. I know a lot more than I did 3 weeks ago when I started this job. But when you're talking about how there's one plan of salvation that works for everybody, it was reminding me of our immigration system in America, where we've tried to create a different plan of immigration for every single person, for every possible scenario. It just doesn't work. Everybody has different reasons for why they leave a place or why they go to a place, why they stay, why they go back, what they do while they're there. I don't know. My position on immigration policy is pretty radical for today. It wasn't radical 100 years ago, that I think we should just have laissez-faire immigration.
Let everybody in. Anyone who wants to come in can come and stay.
Yep, come and go. Just a free market. The most important part of any market is the people in it. We somehow just forgot that a long time ago. And not somehow, it's because of racism. I like our entire immigration system is built on racism.
You sound like
And
a
I
disciple
think,
of Matt Miles,
you
the
know,
professor.
just like the plan of salvation, the plan of coming to America is different for each person. And I think our economy and our culture and our country in general and the world would be much better off if you just gave people agency. And the most basic fundamental component of liberty, which is to just be in a place that you want to be and move around where you want to move. I think if we hadn't betrayed that component of liberty, we would be better off. And I think if we fix that now, we could be better off still.
Interesting.
Yeah,
That's one
Shawn,
extreme.
you're a libertarian.
It speaks
that should
to me,
appeal
sure.
to you, the libertarian.
It speaks to me, but your question introduced another factor into this whole thing. Federalism. That's not a bad idea, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if Porter has that one idea, which I can get behind, but then someone else has the idea that goes, yeah, but we don't want to let criminals and really bad characters into our country, then why not introduce the concept of federalism? I like that. Some, like you said, Porter, all different states have different needs. So let each state define their own immigration rules, and then whoever comes in is subject to those rules.
I like federalism. This bill, they are writing it up as it being like, oh, we're going to do federalist immigration now. It's really not. Anytime you're going to come to the United States, there are two steps. I mean, there's a billion steps, but there are two main components. The first one is with the Department of Homeland Security. You file a petition. It's going to be different depending on why you want to come here for how long. And then if they determine that you meet the documentary requirements, then you can file a petition with the State Department to be interviewed by a consular officer who has absolute unreviewable discretion to decide whether or not you actually get the visa that you're applying for. It does not matter if they followed the law. It does not matter if they followed any identifiable statute. It doesn't matter if they gave you your visa, let you make all your travel arrangements, quit your job, uproot your life, and then take it back and say, actually, never mind, we're not going to give it to you. The court system has decided that it's not allowed to review those things. So even if all this bill does is gives states the opportunity to file the first half of that process, the DHS, the USCIS petition, in order to sponsor a foreign worker, that foreign worker then still has to wait a very long time for USCIS to process it. If they process it at all, they currently have a pause on processing for 75 different countries. All third world countries, they just are not processing their applications right now. We have lawsuits against that.
So is that, do you think that's, I mean, the question is that the best approach? Do you think that's the best approach?
The approach of this bill, I think it's better than what we have, but it's going to fix almost nothing. Because the second half of that process is still just unreviewably in the hands of the State Department. And our State Department is 100% anti-immigration, legal or illegal. They've done everything they can to limit legal immigration, despite just deluge of litigation.
So here's my take on it, because Shawn likes to say I'm a communist and a socialist, and I love big government. But I'll tell you, this is one place where I don't like. I like to say I'm a conservative Republican, and Shawn just won't agree with me on that. But here's what I say. I hear two arguments from people who do not like immigration. They say, number one, we don't want bad people coming into our country. We're afraid they're going to commit crimes and they're going to make our life more dangerous and all of those sorts of things. And my response to that is, I trust the police officers and the communities to take care of crime. We don't have to stop people. I don't have a border before you come into the state of Idaho, keeping criminals out of the state of Idaho. So I don't think we need that around our country. The second thing I hear them say is people say, I'm afraid that immigrants are going to come and take our jobs. And I'm nervous that I'm not going to be able to get a job because they're going to hire a low-paid immigrant instead of me. And so to me, the solution to immigration is this. There is no longer any such thing as citizenship in the United States. We just get rid of citizenship and we get rid of all immigration laws altogether because, like Shawn said, we can trust the invisible hand to guide so that if the only reason you're getting your job is because you have this imaginary thing called citizenship that gives you some kind of special status over the other person, That's not good for the economy in the United States. That's not good for the employers. That's not good for businesses. So you just get rid of citizenship. Since all citizenship laws were based on racism initially, we can just say those laws are racist. No more citizenship. No more. You can just come in the country, not come in the country. You can live where you want to live. If you can afford to live there, buy a place. If you want a job, apply for a job. And we'll be the first country in the world to abolish citizenship.
So Matt, how do you, the natural consequence to that is, not consequence, but the result of that is you have a giant influx of just millions and millions and millions of people, right? And that's going to be disruptive to our society.
Disruptive how?
It's disruptive in that it is like look what just happened in, what was it, Spain? Where like literally if we had 15 million people in 3 months cross borders. Now I live in San Diego, right? I'm a border state. The infrastructure of the city doesn't handle that, right? You've got people, where are they living? Where are they staying? How are they commuting? How are they getting around? So I'm just saying, pragmatically, how do you deal with that?
I mean, we live in the internet era. People don't just walk into a city and are like, all right, let's go wander around until I find a place to live and a job.
Did you not see Spain? Did you not see what happened in Spain just 2 weeks ago?
They are like refugees, unless they're fleeing actual imminent violence. But you're talking about Spain. What I've seen a lot of from Spain is headlines of people complaining about immigrants and not a lot of actual, the society of Spain is not collapsing. Spain is going to be fine.
Yeah, no. But I'm asking you about
It's a lot of people saying, there are a lot of different people from me that are around me now that weren't here before. I don't like it. Because there's a third reason that I hear from people about why they don't like immigration, and it's watering down our culture, people say, which I think is the most indefensible and racist reason. It's one that our current administration does not shy away from at all. They'll milk that hard. But people migrate to places because they have a better opportunity there. So you can go on Zillow and see if there's a place you can afford. You can go on Indeed and find a job. Before you go there, people don't usually just go places where they have nothing ready for them.
But I think what Shawn's talking about in Spain is there's like a part of Spain that's close to Africa where they said if you come by sea, we'll let you in. And so then all these people got in the ocean and then swam over into that part of Spain.
Isn't that part of Spain in Africa?
Yeah.
It's a colony over.
Yeah, they weren't crossing the ocean to get to Spain. They were just swimming around a fence. So you don't think that would happen in the United States? Because Shawn lives, but you're familiar, you're from Arizona, so you're familiar. If you were in Arizona or California, would you not worry that suddenly there'd be millions of people that just show up at the border and say, let us in?
If you take a town like for example, in the Biden era, the reason we had a huge influx of people showing up at the border claiming asylum or refugee status is because Biden was an idiot with a terrible, terrible immigration policy. Rather than trying to push for reform in our system, he said, okay, I have this little bit of discretion where I can allow asylees and refugees and temporary protected status. Let's just crank that up as much as we can. And so you have this very sub-ideal situation where people go, okay, I've been wanting to go to the United States for a very long time. There are no options for me to do that. Now there's an option, but that option involves me just presenting myself at the border for an asylum application. If you get rid of that and people don't have to worry about getting stopped at the border, people don't have to worry about an asylum application. If you just say, move wherever you want, we're not going to stop you, we're not going to arrest you and put you in a prison, then people can say, oh, wow, I can move anywhere I want in the United States. And
so you're saying it might be short-term. There might be a short-term influx, but it wouldn't last long.
There 100% would be a huge influx at first of people coming in. But they're not just going to show up where there's nothing for them generally. Let's say you've been really wanting to move to the UK for a long time, but there's no opportunity, there's no legal pathway for you to do that. All of a sudden there is. Are you just going to get on a plane to London and hope for the best? No, you're going to say, oh, wow, let me go and find a place to stay in London. Let me go and...
You're saying they came to the border because that's what they had to do, go to the border.
In order to apply for asylum or refugee status, you've got to just show up at the border and present that is the terrible, terrible system that the Biden administration set up, because that's all they could do without actually legislating.
So you're saying that if there wasn't something that said you have to go to the border, people would plan, they would go to a different part of the United States, and the border states wouldn't be inundated with immigrants.
Yeah. And where you go depends a lot on who's there. Like, if you have family already in the United States, which is the case of a lot of people trying to immigrate here that just have not been able to. If there are communities of people that speak your same language, and we have those all over the country. It's not confined to border states.
What do you say to that, Shawn?
I respectfully disagree. Not everyone can afford to get a plane and plan to, rent a hotel for a few days until they figure it out. There are going to be people who go, I can now become a U.S. citizen. Like I've got a family in my state. They lived like south of Tijuana and had a successful company. They ran a restaurant there, and then overnight everything changed because the cartel came and took it over. And so they had to escape. And when they escaped, they didn't plan it. They literally just got out and crossed the border.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, if you're fleeing immediate violence, then yeah, you can do that. But you can still do that now. You can still come and present yourself at the border with an asylum application. Less people do it because our system is much more hostile to that now. But like opening up immigration pathways is not going to increase the amount of violence that people are fleeing from.
The only thing I would say different from what you said, Shawn, is that you said suddenly they can become citizens. And no, they can't, because nobody would be a citizen anymore. And so this is, like, to me, what I have to weigh is, again, I live far from the border, so I have zero sympathy for the border states and their problems. But I have to weigh the people in the United States that I know who are hardworking members of society, contributing, making our country a better place, who right now live in fear that they could get deported because something that happened 30 years ago, and suddenly somebody decides, you know what, we're gonna put you in some kind of a detention facility, right?
I agree.
I meet students regularly who are just being detained, who are here legally, haven't done anything wrong, but they're just detained on suspicion that they might have done something wrong. So I have to weigh the terror that some people feel right now with the terror Shawn would feel with a whole bunch of new immigrants coming into the California, and I say it's worth it. It's worth
I don't feel terror about that. I'm saying pragmatically, how do you deal with it? And I agree with you. Like if our system failed and let people come in illegally, then our system let them in. They're here. They made it. Let them be here. But you have to pragmatically think about how you're going to handle the border states. It's going to be chaos.
This is how you do it, Shawn. The invisible hand.
Okay.
If there's no housing for them in the border states, they'll go somewhere else, or people will build more houses.
It'll still be chaos. Man. You are right. They are going to have, that's exactly right. But you're still going to have absolute chaos. It'll not be orderly. It will be chaos. And our God teaches us that we have to be pragmatic. No, it's not okay. Chaos is not the way of God. God wants order. So there has to be some ordered way to handle this.
It's chaos in the sense of the free market is chaos. Like,
the free market's not chaos. The free market is
ordered chaos. It's the invisible hand. That's the invisible hand, is that out of chaos emerges order because of the combined preferences of lots of people. What corrupts it is excessive regulation, which there's nothing in America that is more excessively regulated than immigration. There's no component of our economy that is more overregulated, that has more red tape.
I'll give points to Porter for bringing in the invisible hand in immigration. I like it.
Yeah. Me too.
That's awesome.
Yeah, good job, Porter. But you agree more with me, Shawn, right? You're giving Porter the points, but you agree more with me. Just kidding. All right. Ohio Republican Max Miller has been accused by 3 women of violent behavior, including domestic abuse, but he denies the accusations. Some Republican senators have called on him to resign or to leave the race, while House Republican leaders say that they want to wait for an ethics investigation. Meanwhile, in the wake of being arrested on suspicion of operating while intoxicated last week in Milwaukee, CBS placed sports commentator Tony Romo on leave until further notice. After a caller asked Stephen A. Smith whether we'll see Romo back on air this season, he said, "God bless him. It was a mistake to put himself in that position, but it happens from time to time. Thank God nobody was hurt or anything like that. Can't get behind the wheel of a car inebriated in any way. Can't even give that impression. That's a very, very serious transgression, and we can't minimize that. But in the same breath, he's been a good dude. He's always been a good dude, and nobody's perfect. People make mistakes. And hopefully he can move on from here and live his best life and continue to do the great work he's been doing for CBS. So we've talked before about canceling people. This is the question. Should either of these people be fired because of their behavior?
There's an easy answer to that, Matt.
Yes, to both.
No, there's an easier answer to that, Matt. It's none of your business because you've got two independent parties, right? You've got someone hiring the other person and someone agreeing to work for or with the other person. It's up to them. It's 100% up to them. It's none of your business. It's not your business, Matt. It's not your business to decide who gets to hire who or keep who or fire whom. It's up to them. Let people be free.
That's Shawn's Latter-day Lens. Don't gossip.
Hey, I found out recently about Congressman Miller. One of the people he allegedly abused is his ex-wife, who is Senator Brandon Moreno's daughter from Ohio.
Yeah.
So you have a U.S. senator who is his ex-father-in-law saying,
kick him out.
Vote for anybody else. This is like the worst person you could ever have in this office. I don't know. He seems close enough to the situation to probably believe him.
I want to be consistent with what I said, and I don't want to make it sound like, oh, Matt will defend racism, but he won't defend people driving drunk or people abusing their wives. But this is what's different about these situations. They are in a position of public trust. So you hold people in a position of public trust to a higher standard than you do everybody else. So if you are a member of the House of Representatives, the House of Representatives can kick you out whenever they want to. All they have to do is take a vote and you're out of office. So in my opinion, if you are accused of abusing your spouse, not just one time, 2 times, and this guy 3 times, that's sufficient to have the Congress say, you're out, and they should just vote to kick him out. Same thing when you're on a television program talking about sports. You're in a position of trust, and so you need to be held to the highest standard possible, because what happens is if you excuse the behavior of public figures, then individuals excuse that behavior in their own lives. And so you have an obligation to society, if you want to increase the morality of society, to teach what is appropriate and what's inappropriate by the people you place in positions of trust.
Your first part of that was dead on. You're right. In a public situation, absolutely. But in a private enterprise, no, it can't. You can't force private enterprise to be the moral example.
Well, nobody's forcing anybody. Like
Matt was saying, you have to fire them.
Getting fired is not the same as getting canceled.
Yeah.
Well, we're not saying you have to fire them. Did he get fired?
He's on leave. He's on leave.
He's on leave. Okay, so he's probably on leave while they figure out what's going on, which I think that's appropriate. Nobody's saying they have to. They're saying we are a journalistic organization that has a reputation to uphold.
Now, Matt is saying that
putting that reputation at stake.
Matt's saying that you should have to. That if you drive drunk, then automatically you're fired.
Yes.
It's got to be between Matt, if you're putting the moral authority to companies to teach society what's right and wrong, man, that's a big mistake. I think we have to let a company and their employee work things out, and the decision has to be up to them, and then they have to justify it. And if there's cancellation backlash to their decision, so be it. They have to be accountable for that.
Okay, but can you agree with me that Stephen A. Smith is wrong when he says he's been a good dude, he's always been a good dude, people make mistakes, hopefully he can keep doing the great work? That's a wrong thing to say, in my opinion. Like, I can understand I can understand wanting to be supportive of your friends, but driving drunk, by the way, he got caught driving drunk. So I doubt that it's the first time in his life he's ever done it. So somebody doing that is engaging in such risky behavior that it's probably wrong for somebody to say, well, other than that, they're a really awesome person. And I hope that they don't have any negative consequences from that decision. That's wrong, right?
I mean, last week you talked about how society needs to be more forgiving of these things and don't fire everyone. That's what you said last week. And that is a Latter-day Lens. I don't know. I think it needs to be up to his employer and himself. And they need to weigh out what social ramifications will happen versus what's right, what's wrong, and let them deal with those consequences. Like, it's a great case study for us in society to look at and go, okay, does this guy, is he so privileged that they're going to give him his job back, slap on the wrist, and no big deal? Well, I'm going to judge that. But they should have the freedom to do that. And then I can judge that and go, okay, I'm not such a big fan of that company. That's the invisible hand, right? They're not creating value. They're giving gifts to their cronies. That has consequences. And I think they should be free to play that out.
They have the freedom to do that. I don't think anyone's questioning whether or not they should have the freedom to do that. We're just saying, should they do that? I don't know about the situation of what he said about defending his character, because I don't know that guy. Right. I don't know. Like, maybe there are really awesome, really good things that he does in his life besides this that would warrant his friend saying that. I don't know what those things are. I think anytime anybody has something good to say about another person, generally, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. I just have no tolerance for drunk driving. I think that, and I think as a society, we should have no tolerance for that.
Yeah, but you don't have to, like, if people do something that you hate because it's wrong, that doesn't mean you have to throw out every other component of their character and reduce them to that one wrong decision.
So, Matt.
That's true.
Matt, I had an employee one time, and she wasn't the greatest worker. And after a few months, she came to me and she's like, Shawn, I'm so sorry to ask this, but do you think you could take me to the DMV to pick up I have a court date? I'm like, oh, well, why don't you just drive there? I have to admit to you that I got a DUI and I haven't been able to drive. And in that moment, Matt, what would you do?
I would fire her.
On what grounds?
DUI, there's cause. If you have a DUI, that's a crime. I can fire you for getting a DUI.
Okay.
Did you fire her, Shawn? Please tell me you fired her.
No, I didn't. Nope.
What did you do, Shawn?
I tried to help her, and I tried to be kind and gracious to her. She ended up not being a good employee and kind of screwing us. So maybe it was a mistake. Maybe I should have fired her.
Okay, you get the points, Shawn. Definitely you get the points for that.
Thanks.
Sometimes, this reminds me, like when I was a missionary, sometimes missionaries would, have serious breaches of conduct or the mission rules, and sometimes they would get sent home, but other times they would get promoted to working in the mission office so that they could be under closer supervision of the mission president, and he could sort of rehabilitate and mentor them.
So that's why Matt was an office elder.
We sometimes had also just exceptional elders in the office and sisters. My mission president, Francisco Granja, was a very wise person, and I found it very inconsistent. Like, sometimes people would do things that I thought were it would be insane for you to let them stay in the mission, and they would get moved to the office. And some people would have what would seem like more forgivable offenses that would get sent home. And I think he just had this incredible gift of discernment to be able to tell who needs help and is making mistakes and who is just not in it. It's not going to be helpful for them to be here anymore. Regardless of the severity of their individual transgression. And that's why I think it's important not to reduce people to those mistakes. You got to look at people as a whole and look at their merits and their faults and make determinations about what we can do for them.
Okay, I'll give you the points for that, Porter. Mm-hmm. When I was a YSA bishop, I found the same thing, that there would be people I would send home for transgressions that were nowhere near as serious as people who I would call to leadership positions. So yeah, you're right. But that was just 100% discernment. The Holy Ghost would tell me what to do, and I would just follow the Holy Ghost. But okay, I should think more along those lines. So I'll give you the points. Okay, here's the big question. All right, I've got a whole list of scriptures again. Bunch in the Bible, a few in the New Testament, most of them from the Old Testament. This is what I think the verses are saying. You guys will tell me if you agree or not. I think these verses show that it is okay for governments to take property and use it for the benefit of society. Am I right about that?
Oh, you're not going to read the scriptures?
No, there's so many of them, Shawn.
Okay.
But, right, there's the stuff from Joseph again, where Joseph, he taxes the people, but...
I mean, like last week, Matt, you're partly right? The passages definitely show that the Bible recognizes legitimate governments, and they do need a means of operating as a government. So it does show legitimate, authority to levy taxes and sometimes they would collect tribute, allocate resources. But you go too far to say that they have an absolute right to take all property at all times. Never in Scripture has that ever been the case. In fact, there are lots of examples against
He didn't say that. Let me qualify. He didn't say all property at all times.
Ask him. Ask him if he means all property at all times.
He just said take property.
Ask him.
I think that it says that governments can take property from some people to use for the benefit of society.
There you
Like
go.
a tax?
That seems like to me just the most fundamental purpose of government.
Oh, jeez. What? That's not the fundamental purpose.
The most basic role of government is
It's
to
not to take our property. That's not the
resources,
fundamental purpose.
to collect some resources and then use it for a collective good. The most basic is going to be like protection. The most basic is going to be like everyone volunteers some time to provide like the protection of your community. That's got to be like the most basic level of government.
But there's
But then if you are, they have to compel you, because if you don't do it, you're not providing anything. You have to.
that's fine, but there's got to be some really powerful, strict, resistance and constraints against that, right? In 1 Kings 21, it shows us a perfect example, right? Ahab the king wanted Naboth's property. Naboth for the good of society. He wanted to plant crops and stuff. Naboth said, no, you can't have it. So the king, Ahab, used political power to take it anyway. And God, in the most clearest form, condemned him for doing so. So there's got to be guardrails. And I think you err more on the side of freedom than you do on the side of, well, we need a government that needs resources for the good of society.
But there is, because we did Ezra and Nehemiah last week for Come Follow Me, so I'll use those verses. You have the kings of Babylon, right? Darius and Artaxerxes. They financed the rebuilding of the temple in Jerusalem out of the tribute and taxes that they collect from people in completely different countries. So
Persians,
sometimes,
though, right? Not the Babylonians.
oh yeah, sorry, Persians. Yeah, I said it wrong.
We don't want to give undue credit to the stinky Babylonians.
But also the Babylonians, they let the exiled people go back, right? And they take
That was Cyrus, king of Persia,
Oh, okay. All right.
after he took over Babylon.
So the Persians, that's right. The
Yeah,
Persians
shout out to the Iranians. Thank you very much.
Nice.
take taxes from other lands and use it to build a temple in Jerusalem. So it does seem to me that God says it's okay, perhaps not always, if that makes you feel better, Shawn, but it does feel like the God's saying it's okay to take property and taxes from one group of people to use it to pay for something else that another group of people in your society wants or needs.
I mean, those were warring countries, right? Those were those countries were fighting against each other. I think we live in a more of a society now that we're not. That's not even a question. That's not in play. What's in play is how much authority should you have to seize the property of your citizenry? That's more of the question in play, isn't it? And to me, you have to err on the side of freedom and property ownership more than you err on the side of, well, government really needs to put a public bathroom in San Francisco for $10 billion. That'll take 30 years.
We really need an arch in Washington, D.C. We really need blue reflecting pond, whatever, at the National Monument. We really need a new ballroom. We need a fund to pay retribution to Trump's friends that have been persecuted.
Bingo.
Well, I just think it's important in terms of the latter-day lens, right? I have so many friends that if I say to them, it is okay for us to tax the rich and use that to fund things for the poor, that they'll say, that is contrary to the fundamental principles of the gospel because agency and compulsion and all of that sort of stuff. But I do see a lot of evidence in the Bible of kings and government leaders taking property from some people and giving it to other people. And I don't see it condemned anywhere in the Bible.
And people forget the fact that taxes, whatever tax structure we have, is not coming from a king. We elect people who make the tax rules. So we have a much more direct form of consent to however we're taxed than people previously did in the Bible. So if it was okay for King Cyrus to redistribute wealth for the building of a temple, I think it's super duper fine for an elected Congress to redistribute wealth for healthcare.
Yeah, well said.
I also think, though, I don't think God thinks about right and wrong the same way on this macro scale of like governments as we do, because I don't know, I don't see a ton of scriptures that directly address like what's the proper role of government. You know, we know that the Constitution is inspired. That's definitely true. But there's not a lot of commentary on like what specifically until we get much more in the contemporary era. I think what God values and what is really apparent in the scriptures is individual choices. And that applies to leaders too, that your individual choices as a leader should reflect divine principles. Your individual choices as a citizen should reflect divine principles. But like how governments accomplish policy objectives, I really don't think God has too strong of a preference about it.
I love it. You want the last word, Shawn?
I mean, just go study D&C. I mean, I know you have, Porter, but D&C 134 is pretty explicit with what the purpose of government is. And it does boil down to protecting freedoms, liberty, and justice. It does boil down to protecting property. This is Latter-day Lens, Matt. I'm quoting scripture. I mean, you got to read it. I won't bore you by reading it again, but it does go so far as to even say that...
No, read it again.
All right, we believe that all men should appeal to the civil law for redress of all wrongs and grievances where personal abuse is inflicted on the right of property or character infringement, where such laws exist as will protect the same. But we believe that all men are justified in defending themselves, their friends and property, and the government from the unlawful assaults and encroachments of all persons in times of... Anyway, it goes on and on and on, right? It's pretty explicit, the whole chapter about what the purpose of government is.
It's a lot of instructions about how individual people are supposed to act. He's saying you, the people, should go to the government for a redress of your grievances for the property rights that you have.
That's just one verse.
You should not just
that's just one verse
over it.
Which is the rest of 134 talks very explicitly about the limitations of government and what they can and can't do.
Okay.
Shawn, I'm only smiling because I love you so much. And I love the consistency of your perspective on the scriptures. That's the only thing I'm smiling about. Every time I hear you talk about government, it just puts a smile on my face because I'm like, I love that man. He has the same view and it doesn't change. And that's okay. I'm not trying to change your mind. I just want to hear it. I just want to hear what you say.
If scripture wasn't so explicit, I wouldn't have such a simple opinion on it.
That's awesome. We're going to have that be the last word. Thanks so much, you guys. Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to us this week. We'll talk to you again next week. Have a good day. We hope you enjoyed this podcast episode as much as we did. The best way to continue the discussion is with your friends and your family, so we hope you'll share it with them. Subscribe. Let us know what you think of the podcast by reaching out to us by the links in the show notes. And remember, we love you, listeners. Thank you for making us one of the most listened to podcasts in the entire world. Have a great day.